My topic this morning is codependent no more. Okay? I wish I'd read the book, but I haven't, but that's okay. That's okay. Because the message is good, okay? So today is graduation day. Yeah, we're excited. We're celebrating today because we're graduating today. You know, as I was thinking back on over the year, with some of the classes that we've had, some of the lessons that we've had this year, and for me, the most provocative lesson that we had this year was based on codependency, okay? Because it was the lesson in class that evoked the most emotion, okay? Not just in class, on the telephone, through emails. People were not thrilled, so to speak, with some of the material that was presented because it kind of put a lot of us, it made us begin to see ourselves as possibly codependent. And that's not something that many people want to admit about themselves, is it? Okay, all right, so even though it was that way, though, to me it was good, because whether you agreed with the information or not, it gave you the opportunity to rethink, which is the most important thing we can do. Rethink, wake up, pay attention, look at it, evaluate it. Is this something that I can use? Is this something that is true of me right now? So now, if you look up the term codependency online, you'll get like thousands and thousands of hits. How many of you have ever dealt with codependency, okay, and know what it is, okay? All right, okay. So, and while all these definitions all seem to relate to maybe even different behaviors, once you understand the concept of codependency, you begin to recognize that all the things that they're saying really have a lot in common, all right? But there are patterns that all these definitions have that are in common with each other. So you begin to understand the concept of codependency, and you can recognize it no matter what it's identifying itself with. Now, I looked it up on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia said, historically, the concept of codependence comes directly out of Alcoholics Anonymous as part of a dawning realization that the problem was not solely the so-called addict, but also the family and friends who constitute a network for the so-called addict. All right, now I use the word so-called here for a reason, because I don't identify anybody as anything other than a child of God, okay? So, but anyway, basically the term codependent then encompasses someone creating an act and also someone enabling an act, okay? So, all right. So the enabling oftentimes comes through controlling or rescuing behavior, all right? Okay, now I'm going to share with you a lot of stories this morning, because I think sometimes, you know, you can use all the words in the world, but you give a story and people can hear through stories. And I think one of my all-time favorite true life stories of codependency, in the traditional sense that we understand the word, is a story that my cousin told me many years ago. And it's not a very pleasant story, and it actually seems to be a little bit harsh when you hear it. But I think once you understand the concept of codependency, it's not as harsh as it sounds. Okay, so my cousin had this friend who at one time had been addicted to drugs. And he had a really, really tough time through this addiction, and he finally hit bottom. And throughout his drug use, this person's wife had been very, very supportive. She stuck with him through thick and thin, throughout the whole experience. And one day he found a New Thought church. And he began to change his idea of himself, okay? He began to think more highly of himself. And he began to pull his life together. And the interesting thing is that as he began to pull his life together and eliminating the problems in his life and also eliminating the drugs in his life, his wife began to be far less supportive. All right? And then after he had gone through a year, I don't know if it was a year or 2 years of sobriety, and he was feeling really good about himself, feeling very proud about what he had accomplished, his wife said to him one night, she said, "You know, I liked you better when you were high." Okay? I liked you better when you were high. And this really rocked this person's confidence. I'm looking at the audience. People got their mouths open like, what? You know, but this really rocked this person's confidence. He was thinking that his wife would be as proud of him as he was of himself. But instead, she actually ended up divorcing him. Okay? Now, you often will hear me say that in every situation, there's a gift. See? No matter what the experience, there's a gift. There's a payoff in every experience that we move through. Now, his wife's gift or payoff in that experience was that of being a caretaker. That was her role. She was a caretaker. And if your self-concept is that of being a caretaker, then you need someone to take care of. So in her mind, the change that he made with his sobriety actually invalidated her self-concept. Yeah, think about that. So when she told him, "I liked you better when you were high," she was actually telling him the truth. Essentially, she was saying, "You're breaking the agreement." See? You're supposed to need someone to take care of you, and I am supposed to be the caretaker. See? And that is codependent behavior. And like I said, when you understand it, it's perfectly logical. It's not as harsh as it sounds because you understand what codependency is all about. I remember listening to a tape series by Carolyn Mace entitled Energy Anatomy. And in it, she talks about relationships and the way that we come together in relationships. And one of the things that she warns against in relationships is coming together when two people come together at the level of pain. Okay? She said, you know, two people find each other at a time in their life when they're recovering from some painful experience, some traumatic experience that they've been through, like a breakup, or maybe the death of a significant other. And basically, they come together at that level of pain. Now, when you hear it, it almost sounds like a match made in heaven. Oh, how wonderful. They were both hurting and they found each other. Okay? Until you realize that the one thing that they have in common is pain. Okay? So they've come together at the level of pain, and what you begin to recognize is that if one person decides before the other person that it's time to be happy, it's time to let go of this pain and move on, before the other person is ready to do that, then they're breaking the agreement. See? We're supposed to be supporting each other's pain. We're not supposed to be happy. Now, who would think who would consciously think that way? And yet, oftentimes, that's exactly what's going on. Okay? So that's another version of a codependent relationship in the way that we've heard of it up till now. I I love it when I start working on a talk and information starts coming in. I got this email this week from this person who was like shouting it from the rooftop. This person was saying, I have had an epiphany and I want to share it with the world. And so she went on to say that her epiphany was that she realized that she has always been attracted to emotionally unavailable men. And the interesting thing was that she had learned to identify this quality in these people before she became involved with them, and yet she still became involved with them. And then what would happen? Once she became involved with them, she'd get upset with them because guess what? They were emotionally unavailable. Okay? All right. So ultimately, over and over and over again, she would walk away from one relationship after another, feeling hurt and misused. Yeah. So she repeatedly found herself in codependent relationships, giving all that she had to give to people who were either incapable or unwilling to give anything back. Wow. And then she'd walk around complaining about being unfulfilled. Do you see how it works? See how it works? Now, when you hear that, I hear Shakespeare's words when I hear that. When Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage, and we're all merely players. That's a role that we play. It doesn't have to be the role that we play forever and ever and ever and ever unless we get stuck. Unless we get stuck. And oftentimes in codependent relationships, we do get stuck. I could identify with what that person was saying. That person was, to me, what she was identifying to me was being a martyr. She was being a martyr. One of the definitions of martyrdom is one who makes a great show of suffering in order to arouse sympathy. Okay? Now I get this. I've been there. I've been the martyr. Not in that kind of situation, but I've been the martyr. In another lifetime, I like to think. But in another lifetime, there were times when I was a complainer. I was just a complainer. I complained about everything. Yeah, I did. I complained about everything, but I had no desire to fix anything. See, because if anything got fixed, I wouldn't have it to complain about anymore. That is a codependent relationship. You see how this works? See, I want you to think about it as I'm telling these stories about these other people and also myself. I want you to think about it and see, is there somewhere in my life where I'm doing this? Is there somewhere in my life where I'm connected with something, where I'm enabling, as Dan Rhodes said when I came in, enabling something that I don't necessarily want in my life? See, that's the role of the martyr in a codependent relationship. But the minute I recognized that that was the role I was playing, it was over. It was over. That is one thing I will not define myself as a martyr. So in that one area in my life, I was codependent no more. That was over. Okay? So that's why I'm telling you the stories. The words don't sink in as well. Listen to the stories. Now, those are the ways that we've heard of codependent patterns up till now. I want to share some of the patterns that we heard in class that kind of shook things up a little bit. Okay, here's one. My good feelings about who I am stem from being liked by you. My good feelings about who I am stem from receiving approval from you. What if I couldn't feel good about a talk unless you clapped? Do you see what I'm saying? How dependent are you on what other people are doing? How dependent are you on what you're getting back? Can you simply validate who you are yourself and not have to have it come back from anybody else? I don't have to wait for that. If I get up and I say, this is a good talk, then this is a good talk. And you guys could sit there and go, well, Darl was kind of off today. You know what I'd say? This is a good talk. Because that's what it is to me. Because anything that wakes us up is a good talk. Isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So here's another one. So it's basically what I just said to you. My good feelings about who I am stem from receiving approval from you. So unless you tell me I'm good, then I can't be good. Here's another one. I'm not aware of how I feel. I'm aware of how you feel. Whoa, okay. Now, when I read that one, I flashed back when I worked for this hospital in Chicago, and I worked for this tyrant. This guy was awful. I mean, if people walked by our office, and I sat in the front office, they would mouth the words hello because they did not even want him to hear their voice. I mean, because he'd come out and say, why are you not at your desk working? So he was this tyrant, okay? But during that period in my life, a good day for me was a day when my boss came to work in a good mood. Anybody ever have that happen? Okay. A good day was when the boss was having a good day. And if the boss wasn't happy, nobody was happy. Okay? Think about this. How, in what area of your life are you letting somebody else's behavior determine whether or not you're having a good day? That is codependent behavior. That's a codependent relationship. That's why I say the words don't do it. You got to hear the story so you can say, oh, wait a minute. I just did that with my boyfriend. Wait a minute, he was in a bad mood, so I was in a bad mood. Oh, man, I just did that with my husband. He was in a bad mood, so everybody in the house is in a bad mood now. Think about it. That's enabling behavior, okay? I mean, just think about me. I worked with this guy 10 years of my life. I went through 10 years unable to decide for myself whether or not it was a good day when I woke up. Until I woke up. And when I woke up, I was codependent no more. I could declare a good day, regardless to how anybody else felt. Okay? How about this one? My mental attention is focused on pleasing you. My mental attention is focused on protecting you. Now, listen, that doesn't sound so bad, does it? I mean, you love the person. I want to please them. I want to protect them. But remember what I said early on. You can get lost in that. You can get lost in that until your whole life revolves around that. Till nothing else matters but that. See? Because everything revolves around this experience. This is where all my energy is going. It could be an illness.